This week on the Canadian Tech Podcast, we have earnings from Apple, Bell, and Fitbit, and we have some really cool products from Canadian startups like the All Controller, Swidget, and finally a new record for tape storage density. That's all next and more on the Canadian Tech Podcast. The Canadian Tech Podcast is sponsored by Olio Digital Labs. Olio are the planners, designers, and developers of the apps used by some of Canada's biggest brands. Find out what Olio can do for you at oliodigitallabs.com. And we're also sponsored by CodeShip, continuous integration and delivery software that lets you ship your apps with confidence. Both CodeShip Basic and CodeShip Pro come with a free plan that grants 100 builds per month, unlimited projects, and unlimited users. Visit codeship.com today to find out which CodeShip product is right for you.
Welcome to the Canadian Tech Podcast, episode 127 for Monday, August the 7th, 2017. Sponsored by Olio Digital Labs and CodeShip. My name is Stuart Clark.
And my name is Derek Silva.
Well, Derek, up here in Canada, as Canadian listeners know, all the provinces have a civic holiday today, or at least most of them. I don't think Quebec does.
Of some kind.
Yeah, we have Simcoe Day, and various ones have different ones. All I know is when I fired up my Mac this morning, my Google Calendar alerts, it displays like about 8 notifications telling me that all these holidays are in all these provinces. But hey, yeah, that's all right.
Natal Day in Nova Scotia, and Sid the Kid's 30th birthday. That's
right. And now I heard something. You know how you remember what day his birthday is?
No.
Well, it's August the 7th, and that's his number, 87.
Oh, son of a gun. Didn't really put
I
that
heard
together.
that today. I know, neither did I. But I read that today, so that was kind of cool.
Cool.
So, yes, happy birthday to Sidney Crosby.
Yeah. Ditto.
Even if he isn't a Leaf.
Even if he isn't a Blackhawk.
There you go, yeah. hey, you know, it won't be long now. Practice will start soon.
Yeah, I know. I'm already getting... I've gotten some notifications from like the Camoka Kings about their preseason, and
that's right.
The London Knights are actually going to play a game in Camoka early next month, I believe.
Holy cow.
A charity game, and we got a pretty awesome arena.
That's true. You do. I may joke, but no, that's awesome. Good stuff.
Fancy. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to the Camoka Kings. Might be able to squeeze in some season tickets. Hopefully.
There you go.
We'll see. They're pretty cheap. Awesome. $175 for an adult, $125 for a child or a senior, I think. So considering
there we go.
There's probably 20 something home games. It's like $6-7 each. So
there you go. Get your tickets. Good seats still available.
CamokaKings.com. No, I'm not a sponsor. Not yet, at least.
No. All right. Okay, let's get started with the quick hits, and we're going to go right into some more earnings news.
We're going to start with the earnings news. Apple's last quarter, $45.41 billion US in the third fiscal quarter of 2017. That's a 7.2% increase over last year. Net income of $8.72 billion American dollars.
Wow. Ice cream's on them then.
Yeah, that's over 10 billion Canadian. So that's an 11.9% increase over the same period last year. So they must have cut costs between then and now. iPhone sales were up 3.3%. That's 41.03 million iPhones. iPad sales were up 1.9%, and a little bit of a surprise, $4.97 billion. But clearly that's because a lot of people were buying the new low-end one, because the number of units increased 14.85% to 11.4 million.
So it wasn't a straight, because I was first thinking maybe you had original iPad owners finally replacing. But yeah, it sounds like
possibly yes,
but
with the new low price one, exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
Mac sales were also up 6.7% to $5.59 billion, or 4.3 million units. And that's only up 0.94%, clearly reflecting the price increases between last year and this year. And they're predicting somewhere between 49 and 52 billion US dollars of revenue for the next quarter, clearly reflecting that they think the new iPhone will kick butt.
There you go. Well, we still hear rumors of it. We don't know if it's going to be a 7S or an 8.
I don't care either way.
No, I know. We know.
Yeah, I'm sure you know.
We and all the listeners know.
On the dark side of things, Bell's Q1 2017 results, wireless revenue was up 7.1% to $1.95 billion Canadian. That's an increase of over $1.7 billion from this quarter 2017. Right. Number of subscribers is over 8.9 million now, which is rather impressive. Yeah, and that's postpaid and prepaid put together. That includes MTS subscribers, hence a rather large jump all of a sudden.
Right.
So that makes sense. Their average revenue per user went up 4.6% to $67. I'm paying more than that. You're welcome. And the average LTE subscriber now consumes more than 2 gigabytes of data per month, which is up 26% year over year. That's a large increase, and I'm definitely also one of those people.
Yep, it doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, there's a lot of things you can use your data on. So
yep, I look at people like my mom, where they can't get traditional internet where they are, so their cell plan is. And even with her, she doesn't use Netflix. She tries to stay away from videos and that. She still pulls in 7 gig a month.
Do you help her set up all her apps to not auto load videos and all that on demand?
Yep. And that's with everything off. But people still send her emails with the
yeah.
But people who say, "Oh, if you're using gigs, you must be a pirate." That's just total BS now. Netflix, YouTube. I always tell people
BS for a while, I would say.
Yeah, I know, but I always tell people, if you want to have some fun, throw in one of those apps that track by app or by site how much you download, and you will find some interesting things about how much.
Does your iPhone not do that by default?
It doesn't separate it very well. There is some additional apps, like it'll tell you how much it'll also tell you, like, if you're at a Wi-Fi spot, because, the odd time, let's say my mom, if she's at the library or Starbucks, she'll use the Wi-Fi, right?
Right.
Well, this will tell you this will split it quite nicely. And it will say, oh, I'm using this one, choosing, if you're using the Facebook app versus this one versus Mail or whatever.
I see.
Yeah, it's actually very handy because she was having an issue one day involving sync of mail. It just kept trying to sync it. We couldn't figure out what it was until we installed this, and then we managed to figure out what was going on. So no, it's a good little. There's some good little apps out there. It's been a while, but yeah, it's something to always check out. Sometimes it's interesting to see where you're using your data. Sometimes.
I agree. Yeah. For people who don't know, at least the later versions of Android, it'll at least tell you on a per app basis your data usage for your billing cycle, and then you can go back billing cycles, and it'll also tell you your Wi-Fi data usage for the last 30 days or so.
Yeah.
And you can go back and look at previous 30-day periods or maybe 28-day periods as well. So like Pocket Casts, I've used 3.49 gigabytes of data of Wi-Fi. So normal internet usage, downloading all my podcasts over the last month.
Wow, that's you must subscribe to quite a few.
Yeah, about 10 or 12.
Yeah.
Anyway, Bell's LTE Advanced Network now reaches 81% of the population. That's the super kick butt one that can give you like 40 plus megabits per second, and that's that. Fitbit, in not so good news, their revenue plunged 40% year over year, but they still beat analysts' expectations because Wall Street analysts figured that they were going to bring in about $342 million US last quarter. But hey, they exceeded that by like $11 million. They brought in $353 million US.
So yay, we sucked less.
We did suck less than people thought we were going to. That's awesome. They confirmed that there is going to be a smartwatch coming out this fall. That's designed to compete with the Apple Watch. It'll have GPS, water resistance, multi-day battery life, in addition to health and fitness tracking capabilities. So that is probably a result of the acquisition of... what was that company called? The Canadian started one.
Yeah,
Pebble.
Pebble. Yeah, see
Their
how quickly
acquisition
we
of Pebble
forget.
last year. And so we'll see what happens in the middle of their transition year, as they've called it.
Right.
This is this is an interesting story. Probably affects mostly women and probably potentially 10 to 15% of the male population, depending on your preference.
Yeah.
Health Canada, this is, for me, this was the standout. Health Canada, the United States Consumer Product Commission, and Mexico's Federal Attorney's Office of Consumers, all together in a very NAFTA-style fashion, issued a joint recall for a variety of iPhone cases manufactured by a company called Mixbin Electronics. These cases feature liquid and glitter designs that, if they leak, will almost certainly cause skin irritation, blisters, or burns. They were sold between October 2015 and June 2017. According to Health Canada, over 11,000 of them were sold through Victoria's Secret retail stores, online, and at airport duty-free shops across the country. Thankfully, there haven't been any reports of injuries here that we know of, but across the world there have been more than 24 incidents, including one where a person was permanently scarred by a chemical burn caused by one of the cases. So
what the heck are in those?
I don't even want to know. So if you have one of these, go to the Health Canada website. There's a link in the show notes to the mobile syrup story. There's a link there to the Health Canada website. The full list of recalled cases can be found there. And of course, get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Yeah. Yeah. Again, they're obviously designed for a certain market segment.
Clearly.
That's obviously not us.
No, not you or I.
But yeah, it's like, you have to wonder what is in there that's causing a chemical burn. Anyway, I rant. Go on.
I don't know. I rant about the iPhone.
I know.
The Canada Council for the Arts has established a digital strategy fund. It is dedicated to helping Canadian artists, art groups, and art organizations understand and navigate the digital world. So between this year and 2021, $88.5 million will be available towards initiatives that aim to develop a user-centered culture of innovation in the arts. So this year, between now and over the next 12 months specifically, there's going to be $10 million of the fund available to support artists, artistic groups, and organizations looking to develop and execute digital projects. If you're doing a single-phase initiative, you'll be able to get to apply for between $1,000 and $250,000. If you have a multi-phase initiative, you can apply for between $251,000 and $500,000. Again, link in the show notes if you want to know more, and there's a link from BetaKit on the page to go to apply. So I'll let you have at that in case you're interested.
There we go.
Last but not least, in an epic first world problem, under the epic first world problem file, there's a team with people from Hamilton, Waterloo, and Toronto, Ontario, developing the All Controller. It's trying to be the world's first truly universal gamepad, where you can use this thing to control PC, Mac, Linux, Xbox 360, Xbox One, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Android, and soon iOS devices. Because clearly we all have this issue.
How about in television and Atari 2600 and ColecoVision? Just saying.
They probably didn't want to pay for the licensing rights for those ports.
Probably, yeah. Okay, that's fine. I'll forgive.
So there's a cord version, or a wired version rather. There's also a wireless version. They still are in the middle of an Indiegogo or Kickstarter campaign. Was it Kickstarter campaign?
Kickstarter. Yep.
It ends September 1st, so you can still get in there. They've already reached their goal. They're well over $100,000, you said, Stuart?
Yeah, about $160,000 right now.
Yeah, so they're going to get funded, even if you can't pay for, get in there now or before September 1st. But it's a Canadian team. Everybody's Canadian, according to them. And I'll admit it's really neat, and they're committing to writing new drivers as needed. So I would imagine maybe maybe not the Wii, but potentially the Wii U, the Switch, stuff like that. And but yeah, it's pretty cool. There's a link to the mobile syrup story in the show notes, and of course, there's a link to the Kickstarter campaign for mobile syrup if you're so interested in getting in at the $60 or $70 level for the wired or wireless version, respectively.
Excellent. Okay, so speaking of something else awesome, we're going to hear an awesome story from an awesome company.
Olio Digital Labs is one of Canada's most accomplished small market agencies, delivering web apps and mobile apps to businesses across Canada. In an era of persisting connectivity and pervasive mobile devices, it has become more important than ever before for businesses to be everywhere their employees and customers are. That's why Olio provides its clients with the peace of mind only a highly skilled and experienced team can provide. A team that is big enough to support your needs, but flexible enough to work to your constraints. With a client list spanning from the Middlesex London Health Unit and Ellison Travel and Tours, all the way up to College Pro and the Home Depot, the team at Olio has proven itself to be the planners, designers, and builders of the web and mobile apps used by some of Canada's largest brands. Find out what Olio can do for you by calling 226-785-0420 or visit oliodigital-labs.com to learn more. That's Olio Digital Labs, code that powers every day.
And thanks to Olio Digital Labs for continuing to support the Canadian Tech Podcast.
Awesome. Okay, let's move on into our main news tonight. I guess there's another wireless spectrum auction coming up in Canada.
Yeah.
But what's good about this one, and we've seen this before, but the Minister of Innovation is proposing competitive measures, and this is for the 600 megahertz wireless spectrum. For those who didn't know, including me until I read about it, the 600 megahertz is a low-band spectrum that provides significant range, and T-Mobile in the States uses it to enhance rural coverage and expand its LTE network. So the idea is it's going to allow various, all the providers and that to expand and improve the quality of their networks. In total, because they're auctioning this by region and by province and by sections of province. The opening bids so far are set at over 1.5 billion Canadian. Now, what's interesting about this is, they're mentioning in the documents there's three main objectives, including supporting sustained competition so that consumers and businesses benefit from greater choice. Let's hope so. But one of the things they're doing is they're proposing measures that will give smaller players a fighting chance. They want to set aside 30 megahertz of the spectrum by bidding by only non-incumbents. So that's not Bell, not Rogers, not TELUS, not Videotron. Basically classified by those who have less than 10% of the national share. Now, this was a little bit similar. Apparently, there was an auction back in Canada in 2008 where 40% was set aside, and in 2015, 60% was set aside. Now, what are the odds this is actually going to work? Or will we have a case of if a small player picks up a really good spectrum that a big player wants, what are the odds they won't get just swallowed up?
Well, I mean, that did happen to Public Mobile and Mobilicity a few years ago. Public Mobile got bought up by TELUS. Mobilicity got swallowed up by Rogers, I believe, and merged into Chatter. Or turned into Chatter. I think it was merged into Chatter, their low-end brand. And, Videotron Videotron, Eastlink, and Freedom Mobile are really the only players left standing from the 2008 auction, I think, and the 2015 auction. So, yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks, but ultimately that's what happened. But there were provisions in there that at least for the first 2 or 3 years, those newer entrants were not allowed to resell that spectrum to another company. But of course, Public couldn't make it on their own. Same with Mobilicity. They didn't get as much traction as Wind, which is now Freedom, and so they got bought out. Right. Videotron, actually, I think Videotron would not be counted as an incumbent because I don't think they have more than 10% national wireless.
Yeah, possible. I was thinking about that afterwards. Yeah,
but that's okay. Freedom is over 1 million subscribers now, so they still don't qualify. They would be a newer entrant still. and would get access to that. How much is it? Is being set aside 30% or 30 megahertz of spectrum that's being set aside.
Yeah.
Videotron as well, probably Eastlink as well, SaskTel most likely, although they are obviously the incumbent in Saskatchewan. But yeah, this is good. I mean, at least they're trying, right? They're not just opening it up because, of course, Bell, Rogers, Telus would outbid everybody, including Shaw and Freedom. And it's good to see that the pricing I think is reasonable for what you actually get out of this. I think it's kind of funny that the prices are cheaper in Northern Ontario and Northern Quebec than it is in Southern Ontario and Southern Quebec. I know, but even the dollar per megahertz per population, or the price per megahertz per population, is cheaper. Not just the cost as a whole. But yeah, you'll cover 2.8 million people in Northern Ontario versus 10.6 million people in Southwestern Ontario or Southern Ontario as a whole. Right. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of this. 600 megahertz is really interesting. Very, very long range. I don't know what sort of speeds are possible. In that frequency, but the AWS-3 range I think is 700 megahertz, and obviously that handles 4G speeds. So I would guess that 600 megahertz can handle at least really decent speeds, if not full 4G, LTE advanced type speeds at 45, 50 megabits plus. So. Yeah, the more spectrum, the better, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Cool. Okay, moving on. Atlantic Canada had a big cell outage, particularly on the Bell-owned side of the fence on Friday. They had an outage about 11:20 a.m. on Friday Atlantic time to about 4 p.m. In the end, this was actually caused by, as Bell calls it, extraordinary situations in which two major fiber links were cut by third-party construction work. Now, it doesn't say if they were... Called it, yeah. Well, gee, did we? Now, it sounds like these two major fiber links were both in the same hole that the digger was going into. But yeah, this affected internet, wireless, TV, landline, everything. So disruptions at the airport, because apparently Air Canada didn't think about this when they, made up their network and stuff like that. Oh, sorry, was that my outside voice again? I'm a little bit annoyed with Air Canada of late, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, so yeah, it affected a lot of things. We even had cases of the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary had to send out some tweets reminding people, don't call 911 to test to see if it's working. Yeah. So they had to do that. So now, my first obvious question, because I'm going to put on my disaster recovery hat here, we all talk about the internet, it can survive a nuke and that, but apparently at least Eastern Canada and a few other places I know of, it can't survive a front-end loader digging or some guy with a shovel. You really think that, if I was, let's say, the guy in charge of the government and, stuff like that, regulation and that, I'd really start, especially when you've got cases where you've got not just Bell on this, right? This is other incumbents, Fido, TELUS.
No. Hang on.
Not Fido, sorry.
No. Okay. So Eastlink, not affected.
Right.
Rogers/Fido, Chatter, not affected. It really was. So Bell and TELUS are sharing a lot of infrastructure, especially wireless.
But you think Bell would? You think Bell might make a little bit stronger network?
Well, especially when they bought
links.
Yeah, especially when they bought Alliant a while ago, and turned it into Bell Alliant, and so they have their name on it. And, TELUS, I don't blame TELUS. They don't have a big wireline infrastructure outside of Western Canada. Simple as that. So it's an unfortunate situation for them where they're sharing wireless infrastructure with Bell, and therefore their cell phone service all went down. But this sort of thing happens. I was saying on the Dev London Slack group that this happened to OVH, where I still have servers a couple of years ago where they were literally working on a secondary line already.
Yeah.
But the one that they had going west of their data center got cut. And so they didn't have any redundancy to the west at that point. And unfortunately, as much as the internet's supposed to be built to handle a nuke, clearly situations like this show that it's not nearly as robust as you might think.
Well, and I wonder,
in certain
is that
areas.
because of cost cutting? Is that because of cost cutting? They're trying to save money? Because this.
I just don't. Bell's not thinking that way. Bell's not thinking like this network has to be able to survive a nuke. The U.S. Army network, Army, Navy, Air Force, etc. I'm confident would, because they have enough alternative routing that it could handle a nuclear bomb. Sure, Bell clearly does not, and ultimately, because of where it happened, I'm not all that surprised that it wouldn't, because if you're going up the Gaspé Peninsula, wow, how much geographic distance are you going to get? However, there should be a peering connection between them and Eastlink, and them and Rogers somewhere in Eastern Canada, in St. John or Halifax or Dartmouth or St. John's or Fredericton or Moncton or Sydney, some city out east, Charlottetown, let's not forget a province, some city out east. There should be a peering connection between Bell and Eastlink, or Bell and Rogers, or better yet, both, so that the traffic could have gone over one of their fiber connections,
or how about even
could have gone
something
south.
Or how about even something simpler? In some of their areas, if they've taken over fiber connections from other players, if they're running down the same trench, maybe it's time to maybe think about the next time they're doing some work there, put it in a different trench. Like this is exactly, as well as I do. Some guy in a front end loader, they didn't call before they dig. They dug down, boom. It's all in one wire. We've seen this so many times before.
Yeah.
Anyway, my rant on that is over. Okay, moving on to some other cool news. Scientists at IBM, they've managed to fit a record 330 terabytes of uncompressed data into a tape cartridge. Yes, kids, tape is still around. And it's around for a reason, for stuff like this, cold archives, just in terms of cost per terabyte, I guess we're saying now. The technology, tape drives were invented 60 years ago, but it's still in a lot of use. When you want to save a ton of data cheaply, still get to it reasonably quickly, but you don't need it like within seconds. This is still the way to go. So they've now set a new record, 201 gigabytes per square inch on a prototype sputtered magnetic tape. So that's currently 20 times the density currently used. It's funny because a few years ago, we were using what's called LTO tape. And every year they had LTO 1 and then 2 doubled it. LTO 3 doubled that. LTO 4 doubled that. Right. And just, it wouldn't take long. Like if we needed to get a file off a tape, less than 5 minutes. Because, you just tell it, your whatever backup system would know where it is, it would pull it up, and you'd have it fairly quickly. Again, still not as fast as disk, but it's pretty cool. They're working with Sony on this. Just amazing. Well, here's an example. 2006, they were storing 8 terabytes per tape. 2010, 35, 14, 154, 2015, 220, and now 2017, 330 terabytes on a cartridge. It's just amazing. The track widths, of course, have dropped. So we're down to 103 nanometers for one track. So that's pretty tiny. Pretty amazing how they can do this. It's also a longer tape because it's thinner now. Originally, 10 years ago, the tape was 6.1 micrometers. Now we're down to 4.7. So slightly thicker. Now I know tape might be a bit old school for you, Derek, but do you have any comments?
It is a little old school. It was certainly not the medium of choice when I was going to school, even back in '01 to '04, discs was better because it was quicker and nearby and all that. But we did learn about tape, and we were certainly made aware of it. And this sort of density is incredibly impressive, certainly. And I was just looking at the cross section of the sputtered magnetic tape, whatever the heck that means. And so you have got like this back coating, and keep in mind, like the magnetic layer is literally 7 nanometers wide. So you've got this back coating, a substrate, the actual magnetic layer that holds the data, and on there, the data is being written to it perpendicular. So it's like magnetically standing up on top of the tape, which is really cool. And then you have a protective layer and then the lubricant for to actually go through the tape head. And so the fact that Sony and IBM got together and did this is incredibly impressive. And I really hope, this sort of thing is going to make it into places like Azure, Amazon, Google for all their backup solutions. Like they're big. I think Google or Amazon calls theirs like the Glacier. That's exactly what this is. Like, you're going to get it, but it's going to take a few minutes. To go out, find the tape, load it up, and start giving you your data. But 330 terabytes on a tape that's a little over a kilometer long. It's incredibly impressive. What I want to know is, hey, bump that tape length back up to 1.25 kilometers like it was in 2014 and 2015. You might get up to over 400 terabytes for that cartridge. But if they want to make it smaller, I guess then that's what you'd need.
Well, and the idea is there is particularly on the LTO, there is standards for cartridge sizes. So you have to be within so many dimensions. Like I think it's like 10 centimeters by like 10 and a half or something. Because the thing is, these readers are always backwards compatible. So they'll read the older cartridges and that. Like when I was at my previous job 5 years ago, we were just starting to play with LTO 4. And they're up to LTO 7 now. And actually the cartridges would also have specific color standards. But again, it was great because they were all you put them in silos. They were self-loading. And, it was amazing because depending on what software you had, you would what we did was we used them for offsite. So we had on-site and off-site. But what was neat about it is depending on your backup data, as let's say you had data expire, you could actually then tell your backup system, okay, pull this tape now because half the data on that tape is gone, and basically compress it, move it all to the front of the tape.
Right.
So there's all these sort of technologies, and it's again for big data and that, particularly like for offsite, if you don't need it right away, and you can afford even in a disaster, if you don't need it, right away, it's still pretty quick. It's not as quick as disk,
no, but in
terms of cost, just it's a no-brainer. All right. That's enough of me going back in the past. Now to the future. Royal Bank of Canada, RBC. Well, I guess they got to spend all that money somewhere. They've introduced Siri. Do you know how much they made last quarter? Let's not talk about that.
Billions.
Billions. They are investing some. So let's not completely mock them.
They're certainly not nearly as bad as BMO.
That's true. Siri bill payments and iMessage money transfers they are introducing. So apparently this is a new update to the RBC mobile app. Now allows customers to ask Siri to pay their bills on an iPhone or iPad. It'll also allow you to transfer money within iMessage using the Interact e-transfer method. Heck, I'm still waiting for, sorry, I'm going to rant again about President's Choice, about them doing that. But this is actually really cool because, again, if you can do it via Siri, I've used the traditional browser app to transfer money, but this is pretty cool. What do you think?
It is pretty cool. It's nice to see RBC reinvesting in fintech, digital banking, whatever you want to call it. On a side note about Apple Pay, it's now available with National Bank and Tangerine. So maybe President's Choice is coming soon.
I bet if you go to the President's Choice Twitter page, you'll see their stock response, which hasn't changed in like a year and a half. Every time someone asks.
Well, we're getting there. We're almost all the big Canadian banks, the non-credit unions are on board. So yeah, once you give a voice command to Siri, it'll actually like confirm the payee. So like Hydro One for me at least, like London Hydro for you, and then it just done. It takes the money from your account, sends it over. It is protected with Touch ID, so people can't just like start paying bills on your behalf.
Pay my Siri, pay my Hydro bill from Bill Gates' account.
Yeah. I will say, so apparently the mobile app won a customer satisfaction award. They actually deployed this major redesign on Android first. So I've been enjoying that for
Have you? Okay.
About maybe almost a year now. It's quite nice. It is a very, very nice looking mobile app. And so I was very happy to find out that it was now available on iOS, because I was still using a very janky HTML5, Cordova type app up until rather recently. So I'm glad they got the new one built on iOS too. So yeah, if this sort of thing is important to you, well, check out RBC. Otherwise, just keep waiting. I'm sure. I'm confident. I'm not sure. I'm confident the other banks will follow suit.
Yeah, I'm still waiting, but that's okay. That's all right. I still don't pay fees, so I'm willing to live with that. Anyway, all right. Facebook, they're stepping up fact checking in the fight against fake news. So they're going to. They're basically looking at when you get a lot of articles, because as we know, a lot of people think Facebook is the most reliable news source in the world.
Duh.
And a lot of people get their news that way. But there's a lot of fake news out there. So they recently set a site. They're going to start using updated machine learning to detect possible hoaxes and send them to fact checkers, potentially showing fact-checking results under the original article. Yep. So, because again, a lot of people think, for example, they helped influence the 2016 election. I'll say they also probably helped influence the Brexit vote over in England. There's a bunch of different things there. So they're going to launch this feature in the US, France, the Netherlands, and Germany. And, they're basically saying, a spokesperson said, in addition to seeing what stories are disputed by third-party fact checkers, people want more context to make informed decisions about what they read and share. And, for something like this, I say, hallelujah. You can't have enough ways to be transparent and get the real news. What do you think?
I don't really have much to say. I'm glad this is happening. I wish they hadn't been so dismissive about fake news last fall. But they've clearly done a 180 on that issue. They clearly see it's important, and they're acting on it, which is good. So hopefully, this comes to Canada pretty soon, and out of just the U.S. and these European countries, and we get to see it for ourselves.
Well, and I think one of the reasons they've launched in those particular countries is they're getting pressure from, I know, the governments of Germany and France to really start cracking down, or they're going to be paying some big fines.
That's true.
So I think there's also a monetary thing as well. But again, I think it's definitely a good idea. Okay, moving on to kind of a similar sort of theme. YouTube's actually doing something similar. So they're using machine learning. They've actually been able to double the number of extremist-related videos they're pulling down from the site. So in a news release, YouTube says 75% of the videos removed for violent extremism were taken down before being flagged by a human. So that's not bad. And they also say, quote, well, these tools aren't perfect and aren't right for every setting. In many cases, our systems have proven more accurate than humans in flagging videos that needs to be reviewed. Remove, sorry. So yeah, that's, it's interesting. I'd like to know the false positives, but I also know they have a huge job, because a lot of people don't know. Did you know every minute 400 hours of new content gets uploaded to YouTube? Yeah.
That's just a crazy number.
Isn't that just crazy?
Seriously, for every minute. Hang on, what's 4? I can
400 hours.
Out. 4 times 6.
For every minute, folks.
For every minute, 24,000 minutes worth of content gets uploaded.
Yeah.
Think about that.
I know. I'm also thinking about, from the drive storage side.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well,
they probably have a poor guy on roller skates just plugging in drives 8 hours a day.
Yeah, and not just the original copy, but then there's 4K, and then there's the 1080p version and the 720p version
and replicated
and the 240p version and the 120p version and replicated across goodness knows how many data centers across the world.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
So you know what? I can cut them a break. Exactly.
Absolutely. Like the people who think this is easy, no. That's how not easy it is. Every minute of this company's life, 24,000 minutes worth of content gets uploaded. That's not easy to screen.
No.
Period. And so the fact that they can pull this down much via AI, incredibly impressive. It cuts their costs. Yes, less people get employed, but really with this type of content, this is literally a job nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to sit there and watch beheading videos and rape videos and God knows what else all day, every day, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day as your job. You couldn't pay me. You probably couldn't pay me enough to do that for very long, at least.
Exactly.
That's the sort of people that cops turn into, where through no fault of their own, any emergency services personnel, dead person jokes become funny because
black humor.
Because if it doesn't, you go nuts.
Yep, exactly.
From the work.
Very, very much so. So kudos to YouTube. They're also improving relationship with some other providers that help with this. And other organizations. So good for them. Good for them to do this. Hopefully, it will definitely help. All right, and our last story of today, our good friends, Ice Wireless. We've talked about them before. Mm-hmm. A couple of days ago, they announced for their provider up in the north, Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. They're announcing they're working with Parallel Wireless. Parallel is a U.S.-based telecom provider. They're using them to speed up their deployment of their 4G LTE advanced network up there. So they basically, Parallel sells a bunch of small-scale solutions that allows wireless providers to build out 3G and 4G connectivity, apparently at a fraction of a cost of traditional solutions. So one of their cornerstone products is a piece of software called an all-IP Visualized Radio Access Network, or VRAN for short. Mm-hmm. I had to make sure I said that right. I was going to go RVAN, but anyway, seriously, when I was reading this, but so the idea is normally the big players, you have to buy some pretty expensive and unique hardware, like something from Nokia or something for their needs.
Yep.
They allow you to kind of use off-the-shelf computer and server components to emulate one of these. So that's a really cool idea. Mm-hmm. They also sell wireless base stations that are smaller than the average cell tower, because in some areas they only need cell service for like 3 or 4 square miles, and a very small population. So this is really good. Oh, and I like this paragraph here. Speaking of redundancy, for instance, small base stations make it easier for the company to build redundancies in its network. Bell, are you listening? Anyway, but the other thing too is it doesn't take much time. So if they get good weather, they can put a new tower up in 2 weeks. Now they say you get cold in a blizzard, it's 2 months, but. Yeah. It's good because especially up there, you only get about 3 months worth of good weather where your folks can work outside before freezing to death. And, that tends to be a rather expensive thing if your workers are freezing to death out there.
Yeah, it's going to make it hard to attract new employees.
Well, yeah, and the first, the very first thing they tell every employee before they send them up there, don't lick the metal on the tower. Don't put your tongue on the tower. You'll stick. Just saying. You got to remind them.
So what I want to know...
Yes.
Is can you use a VRAN on the unlicensed, unmanaged 900 megahertz network? Or
that is an excellent question.
Or 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz. Because if you can, and this stuff is affordable enough, potentially I could just set up a base station in Oriole Park.
True, as long as you're not infringing on spectrum.
Exactly, and that's why you'd use unlicensed spectrum.
Exactly. Yeah. What's the worst that can happen?
Somebody's cordless phone doesn't work anymore. Big whoop.
Right. Big whoop.
At that point, I'd say, yeah, but you just got high-speed internet. So
there we go. And I'm all for that, because one of my most important customers lives in Oriole Park.
Yes, she does.
Exactly.
I've
one
also
of your most
thought,
important constituents live in Oriole Park.
She does. So I also thought recently there's this Canadian company called Sonnet that's selling these little hexagon shaped.
Yes.
Or not selling. They have a crowdfunding campaign happening for these hexagon shaped like repeaters, network repeaters that are designed to help you make sure you have connectivity no matter where you are.
Right.
Normal range of about 5 kilometers, up to 15 if you've got line of sight. And I thought, if I could get one of those on top of my house, always powered, because the battery only lasts for about 24 hours. And then, and I need to double check, how far away is Oriole Park? So from there to, directions. From there to there.
It's just got to go. It's literally
flies about 7 kilometers. Okay,
it's not far.
So if I could get line of sight if I put it up high enough, like on top of my house, and then on top of one of the trailers over there, mobile homes, whatever you want, or park model homes. I think that's what they're called. Potentially, if I got a really fast internet connection here, I can serve everybody out of there with a couple of like an Eero system.
Yep, you wouldn't even need to go that far, because apparently both there's a Rogers connection at the curb, right? But they just won't service multiple connections, and Bell just has to there's Bell and that just around the corner, like just to the north and east, and all those bigger houses in there. But
anyway, hang on. So Rogers is at the curb.
Yes, they'll only do one address. See, that's the problem. It's one address.
Oh, well, I've got a perfect solution then.
I know. I've already, we should talk about this offline. We're going to bore people.
I will, but one quick question. So have you talked to, I know the owner's name, I'm not going to mention it. You talked to the owner and you said, well, upgrade to like the fastest you can, set up a bunch of Eeros around, and
I think it's just a matter of someone to do it, set it up, and administer it. Because the problem is but the problem is then, any time, because the age group skews a certain way there.
Yeah.
Right.
But surely to goodness they all want Wi-Fi.
I know, but what are you gonna do when they're calling, and how come this doesn't work and it has nothing to do with Wi-Fi?
Didn't tell him it has nothing to do with Wi-Fi, and we'll send Christian out there instead.
There you go. He'll like that. We're gonna have to do a shout out. We'll have to do a shout out on Twitter. He's gonna get worried. Christian, by the way, is Christian at techdos.ca. They're a really good company. They're awesome. They're gonna be our third sponsor eventually. Anyway, okay, so yeah.
Okay, so I was just looking at Parallel, and they do unlicensed assist backhaul over a software defined network. So in theory, I could set up a little base station on top of my house.
Yep.
Upgrade to start.ca's 250 megabit per second service.
And away you go. Yep.
Another thing over at Oriole Park, and then we're still gonna have to set up like Eeros or something like that.
We'll set up something.
Plume or whatever. Well, Plume. No, I want. Then you would want devices that actually broadcast a decent connection, or like a decent wireless area, even if it's a little overpowering, because you're not going to put it in every single.
No, because this is what people want. People want to be able to watch Netflix, and they want to be able to FaceTime with the grandkids.
Yeah, that's fine. So you put like in every third home, you put an Eero in there.
So
I'm gonna call the owner tomorrow. Say we've got a solution.
Attaboy. Good.
You pay me
good.
to install it. I'll support it through the IT department or something like that, which isn't even an ongoing concern at this point.
And you know what? That'll put you in that'll put you in in one of your most important constituents' good books, and mine. It'll be in my good books as well, because she's my mother.
Yes.
For all those who are wondering. All right. Anyway,
so good for ICE. This is awesome. Please keep building out that Northern Wireless Network. Obviously, it's incredibly important. That's obviously the only one of the few ways that a lot of these smaller communities can get internet connectivity or even phone connectivity, I'm sure, in a lot of cases. So keep it going. It's so cool that you found a way to bring down your costs and actually deploy faster. Thanks to Parallel Wireless for developing this in the first place. It's all good vibes all around.
There you go. Okay,
and it helped me spur a solution for the west end of Kamoka. So
exactly, yeah, we're going to have to talk about that offline. All right, speaking of awesome things, let's talk about our friends at CodeShip.
CodeShip is a SaaS-delivered continuous integration and delivery solution that lets you ship your apps with confidence. You can choose between CodeShip Basic or CodeShip Pro. CodeShip Basic is a simple testing and deployment service with pre-installed CI dependencies that works right out of the box, making the average setup time less than 3 minutes. Or give CodeShip Pro a try. CodeShip Pro is a fully customizable continuous integration and delivery service. It has native Docker support, and it is a lot easier to use than Jenkins or Travis. It makes it easy to test and deploy your microservices and push to any registry. It's also perfect if you want to deploy with Kubernetes, and it comes with a convenient local command line tool that allows you to run your builds locally. It helps encrypt your environment variables and guarantees 100% parity between your development and production environments. Both CodeShip Basic and CodeShip Pro come with a free plan that grants 100 builds per month, unlimited projects, and unlimited users, and open source projects are always free on CodeShip. So visit codeship.com today or check out codeship.com/features to find out which CodeShip product is the best fit for you.
And we'd like to thank CodeShip for their ongoing support of the Canadian Tech Podcast. Okay, stuff we like. This is one called Swidget. This is off a Kickstarter campaign. This is kind of a cool thing. It's something eventually I'd like to put in. We've all seen these electrical outlets, and they have like USB ports and little built-in night lights and all that. This is cool. Swidget takes it one step further. It takes the idea but it makes it modular. So you not only have, if you want a USB connection, or you want, a night light, an emergency light, even wireless controls, or a speaker. You can just literally plug it in. It's a standard two-port electrical socket, but in the middle, it's like I say, it's actually a little modular little thing, and they're talking about they want things like a CO2 detectors, speaker, white noise and Bluetooth, infrared control, aromatherapy, that would be interesting, USB charger, of course, wireless control, an emergency light or a night light. I kind of like that idea. Plus motion sensors, motion sensor and wireless controls. And then there's also, it allows you, they want to connect to an ever-growing number of systems via Wi-Fi, Z-Wave, or Zigbee protocols. So that allows you to connect them to your smart home services and stuff like that. Kind of cool. I guess they're going to have a developer API. So people can put additional things. How about a tripwire, Derek? If a thief comes in, like in Home Alone, a thief comes in, it automatically shoots a tripwire across.
Well, so Swidget is opening up a hardware development kit, so you could actually go ahead and produce that yourself. Yeah,
or a taser. I like that idea. Sorry, that's my outside voice again, or my inside voice speaking. But no, they've just they've actually met their need. They've got 68,000 so far pledged out of a 40,000 goal. 796 people with 24 days to go. So and this is based out of Canada, actually in Toronto, Canada. So and it's under. This one says, it says Toronto as a location. Maybe it is Kingston. Sorry.
Pretty sure the company's based out of Kingston.
All right. Well, but see, who's based out of Kingston? Maybe they decided to say Toronto.
Other than penitentiaries and the tragic.
And even then, you know what? Even then, penitentiaries left. Kingston Penn's closed now.
Oh, right. Okay, so it's just the Tragically Hip then.
Just the hip, man. So there you go. That's all right. So yeah, definitely check that out on the Kickstarter campaign and have a look at that. So that's kind of neat. What do you have this week?
So I've been thinking really, really hard about what direction to take Cleverhost in terms of like giving it a social enterprise goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I work downtown, so I'm downtown a lot. I walk around a lot. I see quite a bit of homelessness, and it's something I don't think should exist. There should be better support for people who have trouble, and clearly, the majority of them don't want to be in the position they are. They don't look like addicts. They don't look like junkies. They're one way I screen, I guess, would be the best way to put it, for people who aren't sincere in their need is I don't offer to give money usually. I offer to like buy them a sandwich. And 9 times out of 10, they take it because they're hungry and they don't know when they're going to eat a proper meal again.
There's genuine need in the community. Yes.
Absolutely. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is the social enterprise goal for Cleverhost is literally to try and employ as many homeless people as I can and get them off the street. That's not something I'm going to be able to start doing tomorrow. But as the company grows and, I've got money to employ people, that's something I want to do. I'm going to have to obviously talk to a lot of the existing organizations that are already helping those folks and figure out the best way to do that. But I know it's doable. I've got a lot of connections who I'm sure would be able to help out and I think would support this type of thing because that's what these people need. They need housing and then they need support to deal with whatever underlying issues they have. And the long-term need, obviously, is stability. And unfortunately, that comes in the form of money in most cases these days.
Right.
So, so I've been giving that a lot of hard thought, and I think that's what I want to do. So you'll probably see some announcements around that pretty soon. More technically, I started server migration today. Channy needs to go. And so I'm getting rid of it. It'll be up until the end of the month, but I'm getting everybody moved over now so that I've got a long tail of time to deal with any small niggling issues between now and server shutdown. And so I moved over 20 accounts today over to Paul, and I'm going to move a few high CPU users, like one of your accounts, over to Alia tomorrow morning.
Awesome.
And get that finished up. And then had a nice long weekend, entertaining some family visiting from Portugal. I've got a vacation starting Thursday. I've got a week off. So I'm going to spend as much time with them. I know, right? I'm going to spend as much time with them as possible between this Thursday and next Wednesday when they head back. And I'm coaching my final soccer game of the season tomorrow. I don't have enough kids for practice on Thursday. I double-checked, and I don't have enough kids to actually enter a team into the fun day on this coming Saturday. So
that's vacation time.
Yeah, it's more vacation time. It's fine. And, so that's about it. Looking forward to a little break, and then I'll start taking the oldest to hockey games and hockey practices in September, probably.
And I realized I led you astray. I'm sorry. Because I started with stuff we like, and then I asked what you're up to lately.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
That's
so
fault.
let me back up.
So, go ahead and back up. Tell everyone what you like this week.
I got a pair of Bluetooth headphones from a company I've never heard of, but were well reviewed, called Archeer, the AH07 Bluetooth headphones. I'm using them at work. I have no idea if the microphone is any good, but the audio quality is good. The pairing was pretty easy. And according to the instruction manual, like everything worked the way it said it should, which was nice. It connects really quickly as soon as I turn it on. It connects really quickly to the MacBook Pro, and I haven't tried it with my Pixel yet, my Google Pixel, because I've got wired ones for that. But yeah, using them at work so far. Walk around the office, go to the kitchen, come back. No issues there. That's not that far. It's probably about 6 or 7 meters away.
Yeah, it's not
far. But yeah, so far so good. So for $50, especially compared, I was looking at some Skull Candy ones that are really well reviewed and look really nice, but they were.
You're paying for the name.
Yeah, they were like $130, $140,
Yeah.
and then these came up on Amazon, and I thought, for $50, I'll give them a shot, and yeah,
Nice
I'm
looking.
happy.
Hands, yep, exactly. Okay.
So what are you up to?
What am I up to? Same old, same old. I'm still job hunting. Hire Stu, hashtag still going. But I'm actually looking at, with my side business as Clark Consulting, I was looking back through some videos that I've done over the years on YouTube. One of my most viewed one was actually a short little training video I did a long time ago when Rogers was having DNS issues. And I was showing people how on a Mac they could access the router config and change their DNS servers. So I might do a little bit more on that because it kind of nicely dovetails in with some of the video work and stuff like that I've been doing. So I'm going to play with that a bit. We're doing some more purging. The storage unit's almost cleared out, so that's a good thing. So yeah, so that's about it. So I think that's all the news that's fit to print this week.
I think so.
All right, so don't forget to review us on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, or wherever else you get your podcasts. We're on Twitter. Retweet us. Send us a like or two. On Facebook, we also have a page on Facebook, or even old school, tell a friend. You can send us an email to contact@canadiantechpodcast.ca. We love getting those. We love hearing what people think of the show. So yeah. Anyway, since that's it for episode 127 from Monday, August 7th, 2017, my name is Stuart Clark.
My name is Derek Silva.
Thank you, and be well.